Hello. We're trying some new settings, some new lighting, so let me know if you like this darkness, if you like this intimacy. You guys voted and I listened. We're talking about, am I the toxic person? It is super easy to look at others and criticize them and say why they treat you badly, why they treat other people wrong, and how they have to be a better person, how they need to seek help. But sometimes we get a bit too judgy and we forget we are not immune to being toxic. So what we're going to talk about today is what are the signs that you are toxic. I'm going to split them into 3 parts. The first aspect of being a toxic person is where you think that you can do no wrong. Looking at my notes. When you think you can do no wrong, you typically are very critical of others around you. You're always pointing out what they could have done differently, what they could have done better, how they treated you wrong or made a mistake. But you are superior. Every move you make is correct. And this means that when you make the same mistakes as others, you always find a way to justify yourself. But if someone else made the same exact mistake, there's no justification. They're just terrible people. There's actually a theory in social psychology about why this happens. I think it was like attribution. 3 years of my life for nothing. I'm kidding, I'll find it after this. But for real, you seem to think that whenever you make the same exact mistake as someone else, that's okay. When you flake on other people, well, there was a reason why you did that. But if they do that to you, well, they're just inconsiderate and they suck as human beings. And because you see yourself as superior, this goes to the next point, which is you never apologize for anything. The word sorry never leaves your mouth. Everyone has to apologize to you, and you will never see why you could possibly be wrong and be the one who owes someone else an apology. We are not perfect. Even the most perfect person you know messes up sometimes. And you know what makes them more perfect is that they say sorry. It's okay. We're humans. We make mistakes.
This is why we created machines.
The most important part is knowing how to hold yourself accountable, knowing how to respect the people around you to say, hey, look, I'm sorry. And I know sometimes that's scary, sometimes that's embarrassing, especially if it's a mistake you made at work. But you know what? People appreciate when you can reflect on yourself and be honest and notice your flaws, because it's only when you notice what you do wrong that you can actually rectify the situation, rectify your behavior, so that these mistakes are less likely to happen in the future. And again, with the idea that you do no wrong, that you blame everything else but yourself. You might go for the generic, life is so unfair to me, why does this happen to me? Or you might blame everyone else around you and say they made the mistakes and not you. And while sure, there are situations in life where maybe you didn't do anything wrong, you did everything right, but actually it's very rare that you literally did nothing, that life just happened to you. Most of the time, life does not just happen to us. We also make choices in reaction or in response to how other people treat us or the situations that are handed to us, which will dictate the rest of the situation. You know what? Even in toxic friendships or relationships, you make the decision to stay in them. I'm not referring to like the really seriously abusive relationships where there's a lot going on there. We're not going to go into that, but I'm saying just generally, I acted that way after certain friendships or relationships. I would be like, oh, but I did everything right. I didn't do anything wrong. They did everything wrong. And even if that is true, which I doubt it, I really doubt it, takes 2 to tango, but even if that's true, you in the end made the decision to stay with this person. I've mentioned this in other videos before. There was something in you, an insecurity of sorts, whatever it is, that made you stay in a situation that you should have left. Or that instead of reacting to the toxic behaviors of someone else with a healthy response by maybe reducing contact with them, distancing yourself, cutting them off, you instead decided to stay and react to them in your own toxic behaviors. That's not really the most mature thing, and I've been guilty of that too. We can all be guilty of this, but it's important to recognize the power, the role that you play in every relationship. No one has a gun to your head telling you to stay in this, telling you to stay in this conversation, to stay in this situation. No, even if you are in a situation where the other person is doing everything wrong, then you make the right choice and leave. Don't act as if you're powerless. You think it should always be your way. You're the only person who's right. This is the only way things go. But life is all about compromise. It's about the give and take. So you have got to reflect. Am I taking from people more than I give? Are plans always made to accommodate me and no one else? Do I find that other people are always putting aside their needs for me? Is it an equal give and take? I mean, you know it deep inside. I can be quite a selfish person naturally. Like, some people are naturally selfless. Some people are more likely to be selfish. Does that mean that we give in to our natural instincts? No. I know that I can be selfish. I know that sometimes I can be not the most generous person around. But I have to notice, I have to be self-aware that I do these things, and I have to push myself to do the opposite of what I naturally want to do. This is the important thing. Yes, of course, some people find it so much more easier to be generous, for example, and to give things all the time and not ask for anything back. But for some people, like me and maybe you, it's a bit harder, and we have to consciously put aside our needs to let someone else be happy once in a while. Okay, so now we're done with that part. Section 2. People tend to feel worse in your presence. And this can happen for a number of reasons. Number 1, you hold grudges about everything. Little things, big things. Now don't get me wrong, you should have enough self-respect that if you've been mistreated by someone over and over, or maybe even one big event that was hugely disrespectful to you, and you've decided that you no longer want to associate with that person, that is different. I would still expect that in that kind of situation, that if you need to see this person in a public setting for a gathering, that you either, number 1, just don't show up, but don't make it a big deal, like, ooh, like, just make up some excuse for why you can't be at this gathering without making it obvious that it's because of this person. Or that if you do show up, that you are mature and civil. You can be neutral. But holding a grudge means that you make it really obvious that you're mad, and maybe you pull a face. Maybe you make it so obvious that you're ignoring them. You just don't act in a mature, civil way, and you make it really clear. Or you might continue your relationship with them, but constantly bring up that one time they wronged you. You never let them live it down. And again, I've done this in the past. I know I've done this in the past. You think that when someone's wronged you, that the only way to make yourself feel better is to constantly bring it up to them, to constantly make them feel bad and have them apologize. Like, yes, okay, someone who's done you wrong should apologize to you, but after that, it's not their responsibility to put you back together and to make you feel better. I used to be a person who thinks that others should make it up to you when they've wronged you. And honestly, you should not go back into a relationship thinking that someone owes you a certain way of acting. Like, yeah, it would be great if they did that, but you should distance yourself from them while you process whatever way they've hurt you. And when you come back into this friendship, you don't hold it above their heads. You've chosen to come back into this friendship, to this relationship, and you will continue it. Now, if you feel like this person has not apologized to you sincerely or shown a change in behavior and they still treat you badly, well then honestly, it's your decision to stay or leave. Do you respect yourself enough to leave that situation? Then do so. But don't stay in contact with someone just to make them feel like hell about the mistake they made. I went off on a tangent there, but the point is, don't hold grudges, alright? Be mature. You don't want someone in your life, kick them out. It's fine. Now, the other thing of making people feel bad in your presence is that when they have an accomplishment, they've experienced something amazing, they've achieved their goals, you don't celebrate with them. You instead maybe put them down or make them feel like their accomplishment is not worthy of being celebrated. You chalk it up to luck. You just basically don't let them feel positive about something that is a positive thing in their life, and you instead put negativity into the situation. Now, if this happens because maybe they've achieved something that you've been trying to do for a while and you've just not had the same happen to you so far, I mean, it sucks, and I get it. It's natural, you know, to feel jealous or envy when someone gets something that you want really badly. But instead, use this as the time to, again, reflect on yourself. Did they do something differently that you can learn from? You know, maybe instead, after you celebrate with them, maybe later ask them for advice. But what I've learned in life is that if you are putting in all the effort, you're doing all the right things, and things have not taken off for you yet, then maybe it's just not the right timing. You need to do your part, and the rest will follow when it's meant to follow. You're on your own path. Now, if you know that you're not doing everything that you need to do, like then that's what you should be reflecting on. That's what you should focus on. What can you change so that you can be celebrating the same accomplishment soon after? The other way that you make people feel bad by just being around them is that you are passive aggressive. You make passive aggressive remarks. Maybe it's because you're mad, maybe it's not, but you make these kind of remarks that clearly have negative feelings behind them. Instead of just saying how you truly feel, you just leave people to guess. And again, I'm guilty of this. I've done this before. Maybe I still do it now. I hope not. I try not to. I don't think I've done it before. But yeah, basically, if you notice that instead of facing people with honesty about what's bothering you, and instead you just keep saying mean things to them or backhanded compliments just to make them feel bad, but leave them feeling confused about what exactly is going on and what they've done wrong, even if you think it's the most obvious thing, you're like, oh, you should know what this is. No, communication is the most important thing in a healthy relationship, and you should be able to communicate what you're upset about, even if you think it's small or petty. Communicate. Don't be passive aggressive and think that that's going to solve the issue. That is not healthy, and that is very toxic behavior. And the other thing, do you notice yourself pressuring or manipulating people to do things your way? This kind of goes with the no compromise thing, but different. Like, do you make people feel guilty or pressure them into giving you what you want or doing something with you? That is very toxic behavior. If someone says no, it's a no. You shouldn't have to guilt people into doing things. You can only make choices for yourself. If someone doesn't want to join you in a certain event or whatever, then just, okay, find someone who does want to join you or do it yourself. Don't manipulate people. Lastly, when it comes to making people feel bad, is that you have huge mood swings. Basically, it's emotional dysregulation. Maybe you have anger management issues and you lash out. I'm gonna be honest here, I am quite an aggressive person. Anyone watching this who knows me might be laughing to themselves or smiling or whatever it is, but I tend to react aggressively, or I used to. I'm trying to lessen that now. Yes, it's a natural reaction for me to punch something when I'm upset. But slowly over the last few years, I've realized that that doesn't help. In fact, I caused myself an injury, and I've realized how unproductive it is to react in that way and how it can negatively impact the people around me. And so I try to control myself even when I'm alone. Yes, some people find it naturally easier to maybe regulate their emotions. That doesn't mean that you have an excuse that's justified when you react irrationally to something. Your feelings are valid. If you're very hurt, very angry about something, your feelings are valid. But you need to find a healthier way to channel these emotions. All right, so the third section is that you simply can't be trusted. And this can be broken down into a few things. The first one is that you use people's vulnerabilities, their secrets, their insecurities that they have told you because they felt safe with you, and you use that against them. You know that this will hurt them, so you aim where it hurts. You know that this is something that they feel crap about already, and you decide to use that in a fight when you're angry. Again, I'm guilty of this. I've done this in my past, and it's a really crappy thing to do to someone. When someone shares their past with you and the things that hurt them and they've been vulnerable to you, you should not disrespect that when you are in a disagreement, when you're in a fight. No matter how bad it gets, that should be a line that you do not cross. The other thing of not being trusted is obviously sharing people's secrets with others that shouldn't know about it. By the way, side tip, I know that when you're in a relationship, sometimes you think that you can share other people's secrets with your significant other because, well, duh, like you're a package. Honestly, I would advise you to not do that, because sadly, you can never guarantee that you won't break up. And you know that sometimes when you break up, ugly sides show of both of you. And you don't want someone else's secret to be collateral damage. So please respect your friends' secrets and anyone's secrets to the point that you don't share it with your significant other at that point as well. The other thing is that you don't keep your promises. You constantly say that you're going to do something and you don't. You don't show up for the people that expect you to show up, or constantly flaking on plans. Basically, just breaking your promises. You're not reliable. People don't trust you. And honestly, that's just gonna end up making them distance themselves from you. But the last thing about not being trusted is that you're always finding yourself doing things behind people's backs. Maybe you're a compulsive liar. And honestly, I want to talk about this for a bit because this could be leftover behaviors from how you were brought up. If you're brought up with really, really strict parents and you found yourself constantly hiding things from them to the point that you started to lie about things that don't even deserve to be lied about, you might grow up with this tendency to lie about the small things and they end up snowballing into bigger problems, right? And while I empathize, especially because I've been that person who had strict parents and continue to do these things, while okay, your behavior could be justified as the way you brought up, once you reach a certain age, you can't hide behind, oh, it's because of the way I was raised. It's your job to notice these unhealthy behaviors that you have developed and to make it your mission to let go of these behaviors. I get it, but you're gonna just hurt yourself and your relationships. So this ends up leading me to the most obvious sign that you're a toxic person. Are you the common denominator in all your conflicts? Is there a time that you feel like lots of people have distanced themselves from you? Or have you noticed that in a lot of your conflicts, a lot of your friendships that have ended, have all these people criticized you for the same behaviors or the same traits? Not that you need a consensus to reflect on your actions, because sometimes you could act toxic to one person only and be fine with everyone else. But especially when lots of people are pointing out that you're acting this way, it's time to really reflect on yourself, to reflect on negative behaviors, to see why you act that way and try to consciously change them. Like I've already said, we can all be born with certain behaviors that come more naturally to us. That does not mean that we hide behind them and that we can't change. If any of the points I've just made resonated with you, do not take this as a reflection of you as a whole person, that you are a horrible person or anything like that. In fact, what would decide if you are a bad person or not is if you recognize negative traits about yourself and you just refuse to change them. But having faults is normal, and you've already taken the hardest step, which is to recognize these behaviors that you have and to take ownership for them. I will do a separate video about how to manage these toxic traits. If you really want that video, please let me know down below, comment. This lets me know that this content is in demand. But otherwise, I'm gonna let you go here. Subscribe for future content, comment for any future videos that you'd like to see, and share this to someone that you're trying to give a little hint to. I don't know how to wink. Bye.